On the right side, we have the monetary stuff. This little stack of gold indicates that we're talking about how much money the province provides, but don't be fooled by this. Remember to look at your economic summary, because you don't actually get all the money that you have listed here yet. First is the tax. Tax is basically just money from the people who are in the province. Each province has a base tax rate. In this case, London's is 14, which is nice. That's very high. And most European capitals will have a very high base tax rating. But other provinces in Europe will be okay, and provinces elsewhere in the world tend to be pretty low. You can influence this by certain things that you've built, and you can get certain bonuses from percentage. So, for instance, a workshop gives a straight-up bonus of 2 gold, so it's essentially like being 16. But having the land enclosure benefit, which is this thing, gives an additional 10%. The thing is, though, as we've seen, our tax income is only about 114%, which means that we're not quite getting... Well, we are getting slightly more than we normally would. But if our tax rating were quite low, we would be getting less than this. And this is more important for production than it is for tax, because production value tends to be a little different. We don't have any tariffs. Tariffs are only collected from colonies that are considered overseas. Now, you might say, well, Calais is across the Strait of Dover here. Isn't that overseas? No, it doesn't collect any tariffs. Anything that's on the same continent as your capital doesn't count. But the Americas, or something like that, would. As you can see, we only have 51% tariff efficiency, but we don't have a problem with that. Okay. Production. Production is basically created by these goods that we have in each province. Each province produces one good. Now, London and Kent both produce grain, but you notice they produce different amounts of production. And we can figure out why that is. So, in London, we have production. It says 7.6 gold from goods with 51%. That's our production efficiency, so our total is 3.87. In Kent, though, the production says is only 3.36, and that gets cut down to 1.71. Well, what's the difference? To figure that out, we need to go down here. Grain, hovering over tells you kind of what this is if you don't know what grain is. And different things are produced in different provinces. The marches produce iron. We get fish here. And some goods are more useful than others. But their value may not necessarily always be the be-all and end-all. Now, we have here the total number of units produced. You'll notice in London we produce 2.2 units of grain, but in Kent we only produce 1.3. The reason for that is population. Population has a direct impact on how many units of a trade good are produced. So a high population province will produce a lot of them, which in turn will have higher production income. That's just kind of how it works. Price is basically the resource price on the market. There's a lot of these factors. These aren't all applying. These are just showing us what can apply. So, for instance, a regimental camp in London would increase the demand for grain. But if the province were looted, it would decrease the supply of grain. And it's basically a little feature of supply and demand. It's very basic. The trade value is basically how much value the province produces. And that's this value, the price, plus some various other features like whether you have a marketplace, your prestige, things like that. This is the value contributed to the center of trade, though. If you don't trade, you're not getting any benefit from your trade income, really. Now, our center of trade is Lubeck in the Hanseatic League. So, we are part of the league, so that helps us trade there, but it's not ours. And we could build one, but we can't when we're a member of a trade league. On the bottom are some other features that are very useful. I'll start with the bottom right, even though it's a bit counterintuitive, because this little area down here is for cores. The little shield here indicates that it's a core province of England, and no other shields means it's not anybody else's. A core province is basically a province that you consider to be part of your national borders, your essential part of your nation, basically. And if you have a core, then the international community also sort of recognizes that. There's less revolt risk, people are less inclined to be angry about you taking those provinces in a war because they kind of consider them to belong to you anyway. Now, the problem is, when we click on a province like Calais, England considers it a core, but so do France and Flanders. So now we have a conflict here, and this is one of the big conflicts in the game over land. All three nations have a strong claim, a legitimate reason why they want this province. So France might go to war with us to take Calais from us. Of course, we could get rid of it, and if we did, we would have a reason to go to war with France, for 50 years at least, because we can take this province back.